that you tuning in, maybe as a first timer or also a second timer, hopefully the second one. Today I have the privilege to have another special guest, someone also I work with at ServiceNow. It's Detlef Krause. He's the VP and General Manager of ServiceNow in the Central and Eastern Europe region. Maybe those two words from my side. Maybe one more word. We will talk about leadership today, and that from a personal perspective, especially what also kind of intrinsic motivation can be part of it, but also what's driving Detlef to this person or to this leader he is today. And with this being said, thank you, Detlef, for your time. And maybe the first question to you: who are you? I mean, I already mentioned you are a colleague of mine, but
yes, that's most important. I'm just a colleague of yours. So first of all, a very warm welcome and good morning to this podcast. So I'm very happy to be invited. If you ask me who am I mean, you introduced me with my professional title and what I'm doing in ServiceNow. Personally, I'm Detlef Krause. I'm 55 years old. I'm married. I have 2 adult kids. So my daughter is 24. My son is 20. I'm a wonderful life enjoyer. I like sports. I'm living in Munich, but I'm, as we say in Munich, a Zugereister, coming from the Düsseldorf area. And I'm a very happy customer of my life. And my life means my professional life and my personal life.
Yeah. No, I really like the wording you just used, being a happy customer of my own life. I think that describes it. Really good. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Maybe let's dig right into it. Maybe with the first question. So, as probably everyone knows, ServiceNow is a software company, an American one. Yeah. How did you end up in the software industry in general?
It's a crazy way, I have to say. So first of all, we are one of the largest enterprise software as a service companies as we are, and I'm in this industry since more than 20 years. But I can tell you how I end up in the software industry. So it was kind of a let me say third choice. So my first choice after my school was I saw all these films, the American films, so I tried to be an attorney. I tried to be a criminal attorney. So this is what I wanted to be. At the end, my A degree was not good enough to study legal. It is what it is. Second, I'm a huge fan of football. And I had the dream as a child to say, okay, I want to be like Lothar Matthäus, or these are the heroes of my area. But honestly, I was not talented. So it ended up in a Bezirksliga, which is very low in the football area.
Higher than I played, so congrats to you.
It's not too bad, but you cannot bring your life to life with a Bezirksliga mandate in the football. And then I studied economy, and I was a young sales guy in the telecommunications industry, and telco moved a little bit to the software industry. And then I came to Microsoft, and I was a long time in Microsoft, running through the career systems, moving to Salesforce, to SAP, and landing in the defining enterprise software company of the 21st century, which is ServiceNow. This is my way to the software industry.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing. I didn't think of that you wanted to become an attorney. So from attorney to sales, that's also a good story.
A defense attorney. It's super important. So it was always impressive for me. The Petro Challis of the world. I don't know whether you know that was an American series. So no. I that is a long time ago.
So this question actually was planned for later, but I think now it's a better timing. So you just mentioned that you're now with ServiceNow in the defining software industry of the 21st century, right? Why did you join ServiceNow in the beginning? But more importantly, why are you still here?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I'm more than I'm roughly 4.5 years in the company, and importantly, as I joined ServiceNow from SAP. And before that, I said that I was in Salesforce and Microsoft. For me, 3 things have been the reasons why ServiceNow. The first thing is as I started to speak with the company, I was not aware 4.5 years ago how huge the opportunity is, how good the service is. So I asked some customers. I have many customer relationships, and I asked my customers, "Hey guy, what's your experience with ServiceNow? I think that's a good company." And I got awesome feedback from our customers. They said, "This is a platform. I never experienced a service like that." Very positive. So that was the first reason. The second reason was people. Why people? I had 6 or 7 interviews. I was hired as a German GM. Germany was a growth market. We wanted to make a breakthrough 4.5 years ago. So I had many interviews, and the diversity of my interview partners and the human-centric style, how they interviewed me, was the second reason for me. And the third, it was simply, I tested the product. So I went to the platform, I went to the website, and I tried to look at how is ServiceNow making the world of work better for people. And my own experience was so positive. So customer, my own experience, and the people who interviewed me. We have been a far small company at that time. We have been on the level of $3.5 or $4 billion revenue, less than 10,000 employees. Today we are more than the double size. So these have been the reasons for joining ServiceNow.
Yeah, perfect. And I mean, that's quite a good intro to another thing, and basically the topic we want to talk about kind of today, leadership. So you just mentioned the human-centric approach of ServiceNow, kind of. How did you shape this topic during your 4.5 years now with ServiceNow, especially here in the Central and Eastern Europe region?
Yeah. Very good question. I mean, looking back, as I started my journey in ServiceNow, I started as a German country manager, as a German area vice president. We have been 100 people. Today in Germany, we are more than 500 people. So that means we had a tremendous growth in people. So culture, authenticity, empathy, keeping up people which we hired for our growth was most important. And the company gave me the full empowerment to build to continue to live our culture, which we have as a global company in the region, to be very close to the people, to be very open to the people, to give everyone an opportunity to develop himself. This is something which is super important in ServiceNow. And that ends with, let me say, my personal values in leadership. I always believe that staying authentic, having an empathy, being close to the people, not depending on how large is your organization, that is something which hopefully are my also recognized values. These are my values. It's most important that you and many colleagues say, this is how we experience the work with Detlef. And this is how I look at the company. We are still very much focused on our purpose, which we have as a company, to say the world, not just the world of work, works with ServiceNow. This is our mantra. This is our mission, our vision. There are many words for that. And this is what I try to live in my leadership work day by day.
Yeah. No, Detlef, I already like our conversation because obviously I kind of prepared for our conversation as far as someone can prepare for such conversations, right? But you already jeopardized my total agenda, so thank you for that. But I think that's a good point. So we have kind of a flow. Now, another question was basically, which I wanted to ask later on, also kind of the words you just named as also your values and regarding leadership and so on. If those words would be kind of just buzzword bingo, or if they are really covered up with something behind it.
This is what I mean. I mean, if it's getting to buzzwords, it's not it's not a life culture. So I just described what I do, and you know it. I mean, I give you examples. I give you simple examples, and you might have an experience on that. If I'm in the office, I'm leading an organization with more than 700 people. So if I'm in the office, I have blockers in my calendar where I don't have meetings. And I go through the office and say hello to people to get some opinions, to get some thoughts at the coffee machine in the office. That's super important. And that's part of the values I live. Also, giving, take and get feedback. I'm a feedback taker and giver, if you want that, and that's super important for me. So this is more than a buzzword. It's living the culture. Also, to give another example, if you provide a question in that blockers I have, you have to have the time to be there and listen to the end of the answer you get. It's also not good to say, oh, I provide a question to you, Christian, or to an Andreas or Angelica, and don't have the time to listen because you say, oh, my next meeting is coming. That's not the way. Then don't do it. If you don't have time, don't give people the opportunity to provide feedback or give you an answer. And these are some examples, and lastly, it's super important for me. It's a value, it's a lived culture, transparency. I'm transparent, I expect transparency. Yeah, that leads to, also not a buzzword, loyalty. Quite easy. And this is really, I could write it on the top of ServiceNow. This is how I experience our culture and our company.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, and you wanted my comments on it. For the second one regarding the listening piece, I think it might seem small, but at the end it has a huge impact because I would say it's combined with appreciation and with respect, and I think if as an employee or basically as an employee you don't feel those can have a huge impact on not just your work performance, but also mental health and stuff like that. So definitely. To comment on your first point, I know you go through the office every time when you're here, and that's also really good. I would also say that's kind of a thing what makes you outstanding, kind of, because this is also we can also say it's combined with appreciation and respect and so on, but also being kind of a role model. And what I can say on that is every time you come into my office where I am, my heart rate is going up. So yeah, definitely can say this is something I really enjoy. And to your third point, you mentioned transparency, and you have written a LinkedIn article, if I'm not mistaken, back the days, with the following title: "Transparency is an essential element of successful leadership." Would you still agree with that? Or how or why do you still agree with it?
No, I underlined that. I mean, I wrote the article that many people get an insight how I live leadership. I mean, it is an essential topic for that, because if you are not transparent, people don't understand why you make a decision. You can make any decision, Christian. You can make a decision which feels for you or for other colleagues positive, then it's easy. Because if it's a positive decision on a topic, no one will ask. But I always try, and I hope it works, to explain my decisions. I also have to do uncomfortable decisions because, as I said, I have a huge organization. I'm in a company, and I have a job to do in driving the company to success. So if you do it, it's much more important to have good reasons and a good communication and a transparent communication on your decisions if the decisions are uncomfortable for the people. And this is the first on top. If you do that, your team is doing that. If you don't do that, you don't get insights. If you're not transparent, no one from your team will tell you what they really think. You don't get honest feedback if you are not transparent, if you are not open yourself to your team. Quite easy. Yeah. So, and I'm doing that my whole career, but much more since the role have grown. So in more larger responsibilities, you are not so close to the field because you have many people in your organization. Then it's much more important to live that value, to get feedback. Can you imagine how difficult it is to get feedback if you have 500, 700 or 1,000 people? They look at the role, they look at the organization and think, oh, that's huge. I cannot give feedback. This is what I don't want to have. I have to say that. And this is also part of my transparency to the teams, to the field, to the leadership teams, to everyone from the matrix I'm working on.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Do you think that your title, if we focus on that one for a second, is kind of a blocker for people to provide you honest feedback?
I would say yes and no. In my own behavior, I try to avoid that. But you know, I mean, you are in our recruiting department. You are one of the best recruiters I've ever worked with, Christian. You know that many people we hire don't know me. And if they don't have the opportunity to speak to me, they look at the title, they look at the organization, and that prohibits to give feedback. That's not easy because if you have so many people, you cannot say hello to everyone and not introduce. But we have a couple of tools in ServiceNow we use to break this barrier. First is, you know it, for every new hire, we make a monthly introduction call on the leadership team. So every new hire is invited on his first, second, or fifth day to get to know the leadership team. And I don't mean the responsibilities. I mean how old I am, do I have a wife, what is my life? So the personalities, that's the first thing. Second thing, in the all hands, which we have on a quarterly base, I always try to invite the teams to come closer to the teams, to let everyone know we are a company where you can go to senior leadership and give feedback and provide questions. So these are the tools for me to avoid that. But I say yes and no. Sometimes that happens, and hopefully we are doing the right things to avoid that.
Yeah, I mean, you can have, or you have the ability to influence that, and that's having the self-awareness of that power kind of is really is really important. Maybe last comment on the transparency thing and communication and so on. You mentioned it in the beginning with purpose and would you agree if I would say, as a result, out of your communication style with transparency and so on, commitment and purpose are words which are perfectly suited here?
Yes, I would agree on that. I mean, that is for me, if you look at an algorithm, maybe that's an algorithm. So if that happens, you get something back. And I see that with the development of the area, honestly. I mean, we are in a complex environment today. And I'm doing this role 2 years. I'm more than 4 years in the company, was a German country manager. Look at our growth. We have tremendous growth. So we are worldwide the strongest growing area of the world in the last 3 to 4 years. And this is what people give us back. They are enthusiastic on what we are able to do with our customers, and they are fired up to bring this to success. And this is what we get back. But commercial results is just one result. Happy people and happy customers are the other results out of that. This is how I look at that. It maybe is a simple algorithm, maybe too simple, but I like to simplify. And I tell you why. I have a very old colleague. I worked with the guys 30 years ago, and I had my 55th birthday party a month ago. And my wife organized, it's a short story, but it's a funny story. My wife organized, normally, if I have a party, I introduce all my guests. I say, this is Christian, this is where I came together to life. My wife organized that all the people did that vice versa. So I could listen to my friends and to my family, how they look at me. And the guy, he's from Dresden. He worked 30 years ago for me. He's coming to every party, coming from Dresden, doing every party with me. He described that it might be my, not strength, that it might be a habit of me to decomplex things. And this is the reason why I described it that way. That's my style.
Yeah, no, that's a very, very good point. And I think, as you also mentioned, in nowadays world, it's quite complex, very fast moving, maybe also too fast in certain aspects. And demystify maybe also another word to add, that really helps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe regarding another topic, which I know, please correct me if I'm wrong, has also a huge impact or is very important for you, your family, right? I mean, you have a role which is quite time consuming. And what kind of importance or what kind of role does your family play within this situation?
You get a crystal clear answer from me. My family is most important, not my role is most important. And it's important for my life joy I have, for my enjoying lifetime, and it's important for my balance. And I tell you a little story about that. I mean, I'm in that stage of the career. I'm a VP of a large region. In younger years, I did everything to build my career. And maybe, I lost a little bit the view for my family. And then after 21 years, Christian, it's roughly 10 years ago from today, I lost my family. So I was divorced and my kids have been with my ex-wife. That was a disaster for me, honestly. I have to say that was a disaster for me. We got that sorted. So my kids, not I, my kids decided to come to me. So I was a single responsible father for an 11-year-old boy and a 16-year-old young lady. And I was in not that roles, but similar roles like today. I learned the importance of the family. I learned to manage my calendar. I learned to have a balance because it was good for me. It was good not to be alone. It was good to have someone close to you who is not in your professional business. It was good to have an advice on, hey, Dad, stop working. We are hungry. You are working far too much. So it educated me. It educated to me that I'm using also simple tools to organize my life. So in my calendar, if you look at that, I can show you, you find blocks for family, friends, sports, lunch. It's on my calendar. So a life balance is really depending on your social environment. And I urgently ask everyone, take care for having enough time for family and friends. It's super important for your mental health and also for your physical health, because after you lost mental health, you will lose your physical health. We have many examples in the market for that. And as I have an age, where I see it, so many friends and ex-colleagues are really ill because they have not taken care for that. Some of them passed away, Christian, with heart attacks and whatever. I don't want to escalate too much, but these are examples. So let's get our mirror and let's balance between work and life. And I don't say it's a work-life balance. It's just a life balance because work is part of life.
Yep. No, I really like also the wording life balance, because nowadays you can't really say, okay, here's work ending. I mean, it depends on the industry and so on, right? But in our case, it's quite difficult.
Yes.
But, thank you very much for opening up on this part. Maybe let me ask you one question. When you had the situation when you were becoming divorced, when you're becoming divorced, how was it for you from a mental perspective? So how did you deal with that? But more importantly, also, I mean, opening up just now is also having to do with vulnerability, right?
Yeah.
What kind of impact the experience and the vulnerability part in general has on your leadership mindset style?
I also, honestly, the first indication I gave to myself was, I'm a senior leader. I managed all crises of the world. I can do it for my own. And the simple answer is, I give to you, after 24 hours as it happened, as we spoke about that decision, my ex-wife and I said, no, I'm not able to manage that alone. And I was in a great company, also a great company like we are, which had a service for that, a family service. So after my first indication that I'm able, with all my professional skills and my crisis skills I had in my professional life, to manage my own crisis, I was not able to do. So I went to a family service and I said, hey, I need help. I need help. My son is coming to me. How can we find a school? How can we manage my day? How can we get support? I'm down. Yes, I'm not feeling well. What can I do for that? So I got some very professional help, not over a day, over weeks and months, to manage that escalative situation, to manage it for me, for my family, and for my life. And that was the best decision I've ever done. And that is also my advice if I speak with colleagues or mentees who might come into a career critical situation or a personal critical situation. Don't think you are able to manage everything alone, because it felt very hard for me to take myself away from all the emotions you have. You have to have someone who is helping you in a situation like that.
Yeah. No, that's a really great shout out to proactively ask for help, recommendation, or whatever it might be, and not being afraid of whatever reasons you might have, right?
Correct.
Yeah. No, that's really great. Now I have to think about what I wanted to ask next, because this topic is quite sensitive.
I'm sorry, but I'm always honest, and if you ask me a question like that, I can just give you the answer, which is coming in this case, which is coming from my heart, Christian.
Yeah, no, and we really appreciate it. So thank you really for opening up on this one. Maybe another thing. So you mentioned you are working for almost 20 years now in the software industry. First, would you consider moving into a different industry? Or second, what has shaped you so far regarding trends, which come and go? Which trend kind of shaped you most so far?
Yeah, also a very good question. I thought about that a couple of years ago to change industries, because if you are in the software industry, you are coming to many customers, and sometimes the customers are also saying, okay, I know you now, we are working together, and maybe it's a good fit for you to come to us in a role for working for us. So I evaluated that, and I evaluated that especially on a culture base. And honestly, I decided against moving out of the software industry in one of the customer industries, because with all the advantages and disadvantages we also have in our industry, for sure, this is by far the industry, if you are in the right company, with the most open culture, a culture or a mission on bringing innovations and making tremendous change to the market. And this is why I have decided to stay in that industry. Second point, very important for me, this is by far the industry, if you are a lifelong learner, and I describe myself as a lifelong learner, you can learn the most in our industry. If I look at my 20 years, as we started with, I was at Microsoft with all these packages of software on operating systems, which you install with a disk on a, the work and the life changed tremendously in the last 15 years. And I would have not learned all the things if I would not have stayed in the industry. So I'm interested in new things, and you get that in our industry. And third, I love to have customer conversations, and the customer conversations on digital trends, digitalization, helping to find use cases, helping to implement solutions is by far most interesting in our industry. That's the reason why I stayed in the industry. I have a lot of fun, I have a lot of passion, and I have the best team on the planet, Christian. So why should I leave to any team which I don't know?
I leave it with that. But coming back to a previous point of yours also in regards to the time, you mentioned 3 points, and 2 out of them were basically the product or the solution or the platform ServiceNow has, but also when it comes to the people. I think maybe, do you agree or not, the renewal rate is quite good with ServiceNow, and I would say you can interpret it like having the right solution and the right people behind it. Would you agree?
100% agree. And on both sides, that's super important. So you have a solution in the middle. Technology is technology, and technology might to be replaced by other technologies. So the solution in the middle, the company who is providing solution on the left side, and the company who is buying on the right side. So you need these three parties. You need a great team who is consulting the customer to buy the solution and to implement the solution. But on the other side, you also need to find a great customer team. And therefore, it's about the relationship you have to bring the solution to the company where you sell it to and convince the CFO, whoever it is, to do what you want to do. This is super important. So as said, technology, you can replace every technology. Maybe not one-on-one, but at the end, it depends on the people on both sides.
Yeah. Nothing to add. And also already as mentioned in regards to the time, for the last words, I would like to hand it over to you.
The last words are, first of all, thank you. I mean, with your questions and with this conversation, you brought a lot of energy on this podcast. I like that. So thank you very much for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to be on that podcast. The last word which I want to say is to say it again. In a summary, what I said over the podcast, always take care for yourself, whatever you plan in your life. Then you can build a great, successful career, but most foremost, a happy and balanced life. These are my last words.
Thank you for your time, Detlef. Hope to
Thank
see
you,
you
Christian.
again.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care. Bye.